Hello, everybody. I am recording now with my new mic, so hopefully, if I'm doing this right, there should not be as much background noise. This week, I record with excellent news. My husband's spouse visa got approved, which I'm delighted about because I was super nervous about it, and it's taken us six freaking trips to go to the immigration office, plus using an expensive immigration agent. And on the fifth time, they said that it's going to be approved if we come back in. And then on the sixth time, when I got there, they were like, and it was chaotic. They said, "Oh, we're still processing. We're still looking at. It may or may not be approved." And at that point, right, I was so stressed. Bear in mind, I'm like 8 months pregnant. I think I'm 8 months pregnant now, or nearly 8 months pregnant. Not keeping track. And I said, "Do you know what? I need to think of a plan B. If this doesn't get approved, what is my plan B?" And I actually thought three places, apart from Ireland. Ireland obviously is probably the first option because my husband's Irish and we can easily move back there. But the cost of living there is crazy. But I actually thought of three places that I would move to in a heartbeat if this spouse visa fell through, right? First place was Australia. Second was New Zealand. And the third was Argentina. And Australia, because I've harbored a not so secret dream to move to Australia. Actually, I was supposed to study in Australia. That was my dream, to move to Australia and study there. And unfortunately, my parents couldn't afford the fees, so that didn't happen. I'm going to talk about getting a visa to move to Australia in a moment, and how I would do it and how you could do it. New Zealand I considered because I have my permanent residency there. I used to live there, got my permanent residency, and my husband would be able to get a partnership visa. And actually, they give grants to teachers, Irish teachers, to move there. They pay for a lot of costs, so that would be a really great opportunity. And Argentina, one of my good friends lives there. Another one of my good friends is moving there. And also, they have good food. People are amazing. And also, they give passports in 2 years. You can get an Argentinian passport in 2 years. I think that's amazing. And I really like the flexibility of that. I like having, I think I have what my sister calls it, like minority, no, she calls it something like fear of not having enough passports. I have permanent residency in many countries like Spain, New Zealand, and I basically try and get as many passports and permanent residencies as possible. So I like the fact that you can live in Argentina for 2 years and you can get a new passport. And that an Argentinian passport is fantastic. It really gives you access to a lot of countries. I know a lot of Russians and Ukrainians who are struggling now to get visas in other countries. They're moving to Argentina to get a stronger passport. Okay. Now, on the topic of Australian visas. So I was speaking to a friend today who wants to move to Australia. And he's paying a lot of money. He's paying 30,000 ringgit. So convert that from ringgit Malaysia. And he's paying this agent a lot of money. And when I was, so I worked in the UK in the bank, and then I got transferred to Malaysia, right? And then after that, I got transferred to New Zealand. But when I was in Malaysia, I had already made a plan to move to Australia, regardless if I got an offer with the bank or not. That was going to be my plan. I had put it on my vision board, and I did a timeline. I actually had a timeline on my wall of when I was going to move to Australia and my plan. You have to excuse me if my cat's meowing, because whenever I'm talking to somebody, she gets jealous. So you're going to have to bear with me if you hear my cat in the background. Okay? So basically, with Australia, if I sat here right now and I wanted to move, just give me a second, let's see what's wrong with my cat. Okay, I'm back. Threw my cat out the room. She's very annoying. I love her, but she's annoying. Whenever I'm talking on the phone or doing something else, she decides she wants to come back. When I want her to come near me, she runs away. So if I was sitting here right now and I wanted to move to Australia and I didn't have a job offer, I would go two ways. Firstly, the easiest way, which a lot of people I know have done, is to get a working holiday visa. I think a working holiday visa, when I checked a couple of years ago, it was like 500 Aussie dollars. Is It's not that difficult to get. You get 6 to 12 months, kind of a working holiday, meaning you can work and enjoy yourself there for 6 to 12 months. And a lot of jobs will accept you with a working holiday visa in Australia. And I would apply for a working holiday and I would just hop on a plane and arrive and speak to multiple recruitment agents. Okay. And because you have a working holiday, you already have the right to work. And so a company can hire you. Or I would go on seek.au with your work and look for working holiday visa jobs. Plenty out there. Okay. Once you are there, and you are working in your working holiday visa, I would immediately impress your boss and get them to sponsor you on a work visa. A lot of people have done this. I know this because I went there to Australia myself and asked them and found out how people did it. So they go on a working holiday, which allows them to work 6 to 12 months, and they apply to working holiday jobs on seek.au, or they go there and they go to recruitment agents and say, I have the right to work in Australia. I'm looking for a working holiday visa. I'm looking for a job. I have the right to work in Australia for 6 to 12 months, depending on your passport. Then, once you're in the job, literally within the first month, I would try and find out how open your boss is to sponsoring you. And I would also cover those sponsorship costs myself. So rather than wait for them to pay for your work visa, I would say, maybe do 3 months, I don't know, and really impress them and say, I would love to continue working for your company, and saves you having to hire somebody else and train them all over again. Would you be open to sponsoring my work visa? And so you do all the paperwork, you pay for it yourself. They just need to sign a form and say they're willing to sponsor you for a work visa. That's what a lot of people did. And you can be sponsored for work visas for all sorts of jobs. I know people in Australia that were working on farms, that were working as bartenders, that were working as restaurant, waitress staff, admin staff. You can get a work visa very easily once you're in the job. Once you have your work visa, then it's much easier for you to then move on to then, I think Australia you need a certain period of time, right? Don't quote me on this, but you can then move on from a work visa to a permanent residency visa, right? And that would be the pathway, the first pathway. But a lot of working holiday visas require you to be 31 or less, okay? Unless you are from Argentina. As I said, Argentina is a great passport. But there's also other passports which allow you to have a working holiday visa up to the age of 35. So if I was 31 and below, I would 100% go on that route, working holiday visa. Now, I'm definitely over 31 right now. So imagine I wanted to move to Australia and I didn't have my husband, who's a teacher, who could easily get a job in Australia. Okay. So I wanted to go by myself. I was single. I was the age I'm at now. And I was like, I want to move to Australia. I would go on Seek and look for FIFO jobs, no experience. Fly in, fly out jobs, no experience. And I would also go on a tourist visa, which you get 30 days, go on a tourist visa to Australia. And I would go and speak to some recruitment agents just to chat to them and say, I'm interested in fly in, fly out jobs or jobs which require no experience. Now, fly in, fly out jobs, right? They are jobs which require, which basically they pay really high. They're in the mining industry and they basically fly you in and fly you out. And a lot of people don't want to do those jobs because it's hardcore. You've got to be on the mining site for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What they do though, when you're in the mines, they pay you a really good salary. They pay for your accommodation, they pay for your food, and they give you an allowance. So you basically have no costs, right? And you're just working. And a lot of people don't want to do this because they're away from their loved ones. But if I was like single and I just wanted to make a better life for myself and I wanted to move to Australia, I would 100% apply for a fly in, fly out job, speak to recruitment agents, and I would start at the bottom. I know people who have freaking degrees in finance and like, really educated people who want to make a lot of money, maybe in their countries like Philippines, in Malaysia, sometimes the pay's not very well too, not good. They really just want to accumulate cash behind them. They do cleaning jobs. I know a girl that does a cleaning job and she's earning a shit ton of money. And what she does is when she works in Australia. They fly her in, and then for when she flies out, she goes to Bali, she goes to Philippines, she just enjoys herself, goes to low-cost countries. And doing it that way would allow you to get your foot in the door. These jobs are in high demand, start at the bottom. It's not glamorous, but it would give you your foot in the door. You can do a FIFO job, admin job. You might be able to get a FIFO job based on your degree, but I just know many, many people who have earned very, very well from FIFO jobs, fly in, fly out jobs, got sponsored, got opportunities, converted that to permanent residency. And so I'd probably do that. I would go where the money is, and I would go where the opportunities are. And to me, that sounds like, in a way, a really great way to get sponsored, a really great way to earn a lot of money and save. Okay? So I just wanted to share those options with you in case you were interested and how you could obviously, I'm not an expert. You're going to speak to an agent, but that is probably how I would do it now. And same with New Zealand, I'd probably do the same. I probably with New Zealand I'd do work holiday, but with New Zealand now I'm a bit older. Anyway, I'm digressing. Now, I want to talk about couples finances today. This was a topic that many of you asked me to discuss, couples finances, okay? And I'm going to read a message that one of you sent to me, and I'm going to share my experience with couples finances, because sometimes you guys are curious, how do you manage your finances, Okay, so I got this really interesting message from one of you. I really appreciate you guys asking questions. It's really helpful. So one of you said, I get conflicting advice. Mum says I should never tell my husband how much I actually make because it's not his business. One of my values is honesty and transparency, and I want to build wealth together and have personal and also joint financial goals. I mean, it's shared life and shared expenses, no? I don't think my parents modeled good financial literacy. My mum retired recently and just told my dad he's paying for everything. And thankfully, he's a good, responsible man and pays for anything she needs, but she has zero savings of her own. She's lucky he's a good man, but also it's a vulnerable position to be in. Question number 2. Should we have joint savings? How do we decide who pays for what? Does it depend on who makes more money? In the past, we've gone 50-50, only for me to find out my ex had a lot of debts he hid from me, and I ended up paying for a lot more things. We also value things differently. I prefer to spend on experiences and travel, but he prefers to spend on gadgets and shoes, which meant I ended up paying for holidays, and then I got super stressed when he wouldn't pitch in for spending during holidays for meals. Okay, this is such an interesting question. Thank you for sending that. And a lot of you have sent me further follow-up questions. So what I'm going to do to structure this podcast today, I'm going to share the journey of my couple finances and my background and foundation. And then I'm going to answer the question so you can have some context, right? I also want to disclaim that there's going to be some of you that do not agree with how I do things. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. Some of you might be shocked at how we handle our couple finances. Some of you may think I'm a dumbass for allowing certain things or not. Some of you might agree. I don't know. Ultimately, it works for me and my husband, and that's the only thing. We have managed to accumulate, we're very privileged that we've managed to accumulate wealth and worked really hard to achieve our goals. So whatever we're doing works for us, but everyone's going to be different. Okay, and you can disagree with how I do things, and that's okay. I can only share what works for me based on my situation. Okay, so please be respectful. This is a sensitive topic, so please be respectful in your comments and your feedback. And if you have further questions, of course, you can put them in in the comments, and then I can answer them. Okay, so first things first, I want everybody to know. I don't follow. I've grown up in two cultures. One is Malaysian, one is English. And in the Malaysian culture, the traditional Malaysian culture, the traditional role of a man is to take care of his woman. He pays for everything. I need to just hand it on my heart and be honest and say, I don't follow the traditional role of a man 100% taking care of women, which is in my culture. I don't follow that. I have been raised to expect that a man takes care of me financially based on my parents. However, I've chosen a less traditional path because I'm a less traditional woman. And I don't want to fall into the traditional role of a housewife, and I don't want to give up full autonomy of my finances and decisions. I need to just share that context of who I am as a person. I like to be in control of my finances, okay? I like to be in control of my choices. Freedom and choices are very, very important to me. And so this is a leading theme in the decisions on why I do things, because I have money trauma. I have really, really bad experiences myself, and also seeing family members and friends and family where a woman does not have control over her money and being in positions where she does not have choices, or she has to put up with things she doesn't like due to money. Okay. And because of that, I do have money trauma, and I find it very, very difficult to have someone else in charge of my money and in charge of my decisions. I want to share that context because you may not have money trauma, so you can do things differently. Okay. So I'm going to share also the foundation of my husband and I's financial relationship. So when I met my husband in Barcelona, he's Irish, and I met him in Barcelona. I'd say in the first or second date, I asked early on these questions because I truly, truly think we need to know if we're compatible in many areas. Religion, culture, not so much, values, ambition. I asked these questions early on because we don't have time to waste. I don't want to waste my time. When I asked him, I was very frank and open and honest and said, do you have credit card debt? Do you have debt? What is your opinion on debt? Like, rather than asking, what do you have debt? I say, what's your opinion on credit card debt? What are your thoughts on that? And I asked him, what are you saving for? Do you take care of your family? Like, you have an elderly mum. Like, what's your opinion on, sending your mum money or taking your mum out for dinner? Another thing I asked, and you can ask in different ways, is I wanted to find out if he was a miser, somebody who is, holds on to his money, doesn't spend anything, and is not generous with his money. That's, to me, quite important to find out. And even though I retained my independence, and I would never at the beginning expect a man to 100% cover me, I let my husband court me, meaning I let him take me out for dinner. I let him pay for dinner. And to be quite honest, and many of you might disagree with me on this, if on our first date, if he split things equally and said, I want you to pay your way right from the beginning, and he didn't court me, I believe that would have been a problem, because I truly wanted to feel like he was courting me. I feel like, if you can't even make an effort in the beginning, then when are you going to make an effort? I like that feeling of a man courting me. I think I'm worthy of being courted, And so I let him buy me dinner. I let him buy me flowers. I let him pay for dinner and for dates and whatnot, okay? I also, and bear in mind, I don't expect that forever. I know as you progress in this economy, guys and girls, in this economy, we can't, it's hard for, especially I have brothers, it's hard for a woman to, right from the get-go, have a lavish lifestyle and ask a man to fund it. I don't agree with that, But having said that, I also do think it's okay for a man to court you. Let him take you out. Let him buy you gifts. Don't insist right from me. Let me pay my way. Let me pay my way. Let me pay my way. I will pay my way. But right now, I want you to show me how much you want me, how worthy I am of your money, right? Now, I've got notes here. Hang on. So another thing I asked him was about his education, his job situation, and his ambition. To me, this is very telling. And bear in mind, I wasn't, in my early 20s when I met him, I was in my late 20s, yeah. And so I didn't have the time to, gamble on someone's potential. I wanted to know straight up, what's your ambition? What's your job situation? What's your education like? What is your stability? Do you have a realistic goal? If you have a passion, what is that going to turn into? How are you going to pay your way? To me, that's important. And initially, I'm quite embarrassed about this, actually. You guys are going to get upset with me for this, but I actually initially found his job to be a bit of an issue. And you're going to call me materialistic, and I admit I was a bit materialistic, but you see, my dad was a teacher, and my dad's now a professor. But my dad chose to take low-paid jobs purely based on values. He chose to go for certain jobs in certain schools. When he could go for higher paid jobs, he went for lower paid jobs, which aligned with his values. And as a result, we suffered financially. As a family, we did suffer financially. And so I had the impression that teachers, and especially in Malaysia, I had the impression that teachers aren't paid very well. And I didn't have a very high opinion of teachers in terms of financial stability, because I had bad experiences with my dad, right? And I remember talking to my mum about it and saying, Mum, is it an issue? You know, like, can he take care? If I end up with him and marry him, is his job stable enough? Is his job, like, we struggle so much, Mum. Like, can he take care of me and the family if we have kids? And my mum said to me, Aisha, if he is a hardworking man, you will always be okay. If he is a hardworking man and he is a responsible man, then you do not have to worry about whether he will or he won't take care of you. He will. And I remember I took that chance in a way, and I said, you know what? He is a hardworking man based on the conversation I had with him. He's a responsible man also based on the conversations I had with him. And he is a hard worker. He's a grafter. And I decided to put that aside and proceed with our relationship. And my goodness, what a delight it was to find out that actually expat teachers get paid a shitload. You get paid so much money as an expat teacher. I did not know this. You go to Korea, you go to Saudi Arabia, you go to Malaysia, you get really, really good pay compared to the locals. And so thankfully, he's been on a very, very good salary as a teacher, and he's been able to, save and take care of me. So as we progressed our relationship, so at the beginning of our relationship, our finances were separate. I paid my own rent, I paid my own expenses. However, he did take care of me. Like, he would buy me gifts, he'd often pay for dinner. But I was also generous too. There was no expectation that he would pay for everything. There were times when I would also pay for dinner. I would also pay for lunch. And I would watch and observe how he treated me. This to me was really a crucial point in our relationship where I watched and observed. Because he could have easily been like, well, okay, 50-50, 50-50. But I noticed that even though I did pay my way, he was always very generous with me. He wasn't a miser. To me, being a miser is the biggest turnoff. I cannot deal with stingy men. Cannot deal with it. And I was also generous with my money. And so I didn't have much, but I was also generous too. And I led the way. Like, in a way, like, I would buy him gifts and he'd buy me gifts. I've been in relationships where I would be generous and they didn't reciprocate. So I ended the relationship. It's like, don't pour love and money into a situation where it's not reciprocated. So I remember there was a time when I bought gifts and I was very generous and it wasn't reciprocated. So I said, fine, I'm not gonna continue with this. You're stingy. And so I found with my current husband, when we were dating, he was very generous and I was generous too. And we continued to spoil each other. But crucially at this point, I started having conversations about the future, and I asked, what are we saving for? And I created a Google Sheets, and I said, let's start having some saving goals. Is it a house that we want to save for? Is it a holiday we're saving for? And I think it was a house that we wanted. And so I set up a spreadsheet and I made a plan and I said, how much can you save per month? How much can I save per month? And I tracked it. And so he would put money in his savings account. I would put money in my savings account. But I would track how much he would be saving towards our joint goal of buying a house, saving for a house. And so as time went on and we progressed and he changed jobs, he earned more than me. That was reality. So he saved more. There were times when I couldn't save as much, and he saved 3 times more than me. But he put that in his account and I put it in my account, but I tracked it. And that money was our joint money for the future. So we didn't spend that money. That was money that we weren't going to touch. It was money for our joint goal of buying a house. Eventually, as time has progressed, and this just shows you how kind of innocent my husband is in terms of his trust in me, and it's really quite touching. He really truly trusts me and believes that, and he really values my opinion and values my knowledge in investments and savings. And I really am so kind of touched with his belief in me. And he said, okay, why don't I just send you the money and you put it in your account, and we have that money can go in one savings account and we have it together. And I can't remember why that happened, but he was completely fine. And I could have been a nut job. I could have just taken all his money. Clearly we got into a point where he trusted me. And so I was in charge of the saving and investing. So every month I would open the spreadsheet and say, how much can you save this month? And he would send me, and I would show him. I'd put it into a savings account under my name, but I would show him the transaction. I would show him my transaction. There was a lot of openness, and he could see how much money that our pot was growing, and for to save for the house. And so, and every month I tracked it. I showed him a screenshot. He had a record of it. I wanted to be very open. Okay. Now we fast forward. Now we are married. Now here's the interesting thing. Okay. So as time has gone on, I went on to out earn him because the blog did very well and my finances shot up. And honestly, based on my mum's advice, she was like, he has to pay everything. My mum's a traditional Malaysian woman. She said, he has to pay for everything. Why should you have to cover anything? Because you're married. And initially, he paid all the bills, all the rent, everything. Even though I earned way more, he paid for all the expenses. And what I did to compensate, I felt like, I just felt like that was nice, but I loved him and I wanted to also have a good lifestyle. So I ended up paying for more of the bigger expenses, such as, for example, I wanted to go on holiday and I wanted to stay in a nice hotel. So I pay for that. Or sometimes we fly business class. I pay for that. The business will pay for that. And so I found that like it worked where he covered all the bills and expenses. And when it came to kind of bigger kind of like splurges, that were kind of fun, I would cover that. And I'm okay with that because he is covering the bills, right? And then we moved to Ireland. And in Ireland, because of the cost of living, I just knew that it's just so difficult for somebody to support a household in Ireland. And it was a tough time to move back. And I just realized I wanted to help out. I could easily have told him, no, you cover everything. But financially, it was not feasible. He was not on a bad salary. He was on a teacher salary in Ireland, which is not bad. And even then, it was like tough on him, man. And, I love my husband and I didn't want him to suffer. And I remember thinking like, why is he not saving? And I remember like, so is he gambling? Like, what's going on here? And I remember looking at his bank statements and every single transaction was a bill, was for groceries. And the guy was really struggling, like not struggling, but he was really down to he was not spending money on anything except bills. And I felt really selfish, And so I thought, you know what? Stop this nonsense. I earn more than him. I can help out. And so what I did, and basically just when I earn more, it doesn't mean that I'm frivolously spending. I'm putting the extra money away for savings for us. So people think, oh, you let him suffer. No, to be honest, in the times that he was covering all the bills, my extra money, I was just putting it away for savings. And that money later on was used to buy the house. Okay. So just to let you know, I was pulling my weight. And so over time, I decided I would help out. I would help out with rent. I would help out because the cost of living was just too tough on him. And so I didn't mind splitting and helping with the rent. I didn't mind helping out with not all, but some of the bills. But interestingly, my mum always said, I don't know why, I need to understand the logic of it. She said, let him buy the groceries. Because I would be very quick to get my card out. And she said, when it comes to groceries, let him pay for groceries. That was a big thing for her. So I said, okay, fine, he can pay for groceries. But I would also, sometimes I'd offer to pay for dinner. It was very equal, Then, as we move on, if you're still here, still listening, he joined the business. So we've made a decision for my husband to join the business for maybe 1 to 2 years because I wanted to experience how it is to work with a partner, to have the freedom, flexibility, and also about to pop out a kid. It'd be nice to be able to spend some time with my husband and the kid together. So now that he's joined the business, he gets a salary. He gets a fixed salary every month. And with that salary in Malaysia, he pays all the bills and expenses. Fortunately, we do not have a mortgage, so he doesn't have to pay for rent or a mortgage. That's a big financial pressure that has been taken off. And, we've both contributed towards buying this house, but a lot of the savings that I saved in the past has bought the house here. Okay, so it's kind of like we've helped each other out, So I let him pay all the bills. I say, you've got a salary coming in every month. The business is paying for that. You pay for the bills, so water, electricity, whatever. Any area of the bills. We don't have that many bills in Malaysia, to be honest. I let him pay. And also, I let him pay for groceries. Then, anything to do with baby stuff, I wanted him to pay for it because I don't know, I kind of felt like as dad, I want him to feel like he is paying for the baby. So I let him step up and pay for all the medical checkups, he pays for that. All the purchases for the baby, he pays for that. And then I realized, right, like, hey man, having a baby, like a freaking stroller can cost a couple of grand. And I realized that I'm still holding on to his savings. Remember, it's in my account. And so I said, you know what, I need to ease up a bit. You could hold on to all this money for the future, or you could release some so he can actually spend his money, right? And so I released some of his savings to him. So he didn't feel as much pressure because, he's paying all the bills and he's paying for baby stuff. And I think that has relieved the financial pressure a bit. But when it comes to, like, we take turns, like I'll buy dinner, he'll buy dinner. A lot of the big expenses, because I'm earning more, and now that I'm earning, he gets a salary and I'm in charge of the business income. So a lot of the big expenses, like accommodation for hotels, I'll cover that. I'll say, you know what, I'm happy to cover that, But I want it to be where he's paying for the bills, he's paying for the baby stuff. And that works for us right now. That's eased things a lot. And so we look after each other, like he'll buy me clothes, he'll buy me gifts, he'll buy me dinner, and he looks after me. And then I'll do the same. I'll look after him. He's very generous, but he's also very careful with his money. I call him the squirrel. He's a squirrel. He's very good at saving money. But here's an important point, right? If at any point I wanted to stay home, let's say I pop out this baby in January, and I say to my husband, listen, babes, I don't want to work anymore. I want to look after the baby. Can you go back to work and work for an international school? I just know he would happily do that. He would happily go back and take care of us, because that's just the guy he is. He's a provider, and he would never, never want me to suffer. He would never want me to be unhappy. The situation we are in right now has been decided by me. I wanted it to be this way. I wanted to be in charge. I wanted the freedom. And if at any point I say, actually, I want to stay at home, I don't want to work, mind you, I'd hate that. I love working. But if at any point I wanted to give up the blogging business and I didn't want to work, without a shadow of a doubt, my husband would happily go back to work and cover all the bills and take care of me and baby, okay? So it's important that I'm aware of that. I don't want to be in a situation where everything's on me. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the woman having to take care of the kids, plus work, plus look after the house. You know what I mean? And also I'd like to add that my husband is very hands-on when it comes to the house. Like, he goes buys groceries, he vacuums the house, he cooks for me. I mean, I cook too, but he's super, super hands-on in the house, and all our chores are split equally. It's a beautiful situation, because I don't want it to be a situation where the woman is having to burden the financial responsibility, plus look after the kids, plus look after the house. I don't think that's fair, okay? That doesn't seem right to me. And so what I'm going to do, I wanted to share because some of you asked me, how do I do things? I'm just going to share, literally, that's how I do things right now, and things might change. Now I'm going to answer some questions and answers that you guys have sent, okay? So one of the questions you guys have asked, let me just go back to my questions. To share or not to share? And I assume this means a joint account, okay? A lot of people ask me, do you have a joint account? We do not have a joint account. No, we don't. We've been married, we've been together for so many years. It just so happens we don't have a joint account. Why? We don't need it. I'm not against it. He's not against it. But the situation we're in financially is he gets a salary. So the business pays him a salary. And all the main bills he pays. And any big bills I pay. And there's not really any need. And there's not really any need. And any savings he'd probably send to me. And I put in our savings account, which is our... When I say we have joint savings. So we have... under my name, but it's like we both know that's joint savings. So we are saving for certain things, and that's his money and my money. We just haven't got around to having a joint savings account. We don't need it. Another thing you asked, do you split equally? No, we don't. And I think that in life, it's never going to be equal. Sometimes it's going to be 70-30. Sometimes it'll be 50-50. But I don't think it's fair. Okay. I don't think it's fair if one partner earns more, the other partner earns less, and the financial burden is all on one person. Like, with my husband, where he pays the bills, I also pull my weight financially and pay for the big expenses. It's like, how can it be fair if one partner earns more than the other and then one is suffering having to pay 50-50? I really don't think that's fair. I don't know. I follow Ramit Sethi's, which is basically you pay according to your income, right? So if your income goes up, then you pay more. But if your income goes down, but bear in mind, if your income's gone down, why has it gone down? Is it because you don't want to work? If your income's going down, you need to discuss that with your partner. It's not fair. Another situation is where you're like, oh, I want to work part-time. You haven't told your husband hasn't told you he wants to work part-time, and then suddenly you're shouldering the burden of all the finances because he just wants to swing his legs and do nothing at home. That's not cool, to me anyway. So I think it's about conversation, right? I don't think splitting equally works for me. It could work for you, but it doesn't work for me. So that was another question. How to manage joint expenses, especially with the family. And so I shared that, with my situation now with the baby, my husband is also depending on income. If I wasn't working, excuse me, if I wasn't working, then my husband would cover everything. If I'm working part-time, my husband pays more. If I'm, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to decide on who earns more, and bear in mind, like, you could be working part-time and then part-time looking after the kids. That's a freaking job in itself. No one can make you feel bad for that, If they were to pay for a nanny and a cleaner and a cook, that would cost them way more. So in terms of like how to manage joint expenses, who earns more? Okay? And then how can you work together to achieve a goal together? I just so happen to want my husband to pay for the baby stuff, but there's going to be times when, things are going to be super expensive. I don't mind stepping in and paying for baby stuff. I'd have no issue. I think there was a really huge expense that I was like, I have savings. I can pay for this. So generally, like the day to day, I'd like my husband to pay for it, but I don't mind stepping in. Okay. Now, another question is how to start the conversation without the other one feeling offended. This is a good question because when I did it with my husband, then boyfriend, I started by starting the conversation with what can they gain out of it. So I began the conversation with, I want to save for the future so you have financial freedom. I want to be able to buy you gifts. I want you to have a house. How can we have a conversation so your goals are achieved? What are your goals? It's not about me right now. It's about us, right? So I started like, do you want to buy a house one day? Do you want to go on holiday one day? What are your goals? I asked him, what's in it for them? Okay. I also think though, if somebody early on is very, very closed and doesn't want to discuss their finances, to me, that's a problem. That's financial incompatibility. And if my now husband, had an issue discussing finances and was cagey, didn't want to talk about money, I don't think I would have married him. And certainly if he had credit card debt and didn't want to deal with the debt and didn't want to be open to it, 100% would not marry him. That's a red flag. You have a right before you settle down with somebody to know about their finances, because your finances is going to affect your everyday life. Make sure you are financially compatible. What are their opinions on saving? What do they save? Do they have debt? How they're dealing with debt? These are all questions you need to ask. Ask by coming in from what can you get out of this? How can it help your future? But if they still don't want to have that conversation, that's a red flag. To me, that's something you should really watch out for. Another question here is, I'd love your thought on finances where one parent reduces their work hours after having a child. Friends of mine have a joint account for their bills, groceries, everything for their kids, family holiday. And then whatever they have left is theirs to save, spend, invest, whatever really. But one of them went part-time after they started having kids, so their disposable income is where they took the hit, but their spouse still has the same disposable income, rather than both parents taking the financial hit. Seems a bit unfair to me. I completely agree. I believe if you have gone part-time as a parent, whether you're a man or a woman, you should not have to suffer. You are taking one for the team. Being a caretaker for the kid is freaking hard, man. So I don't think you should suffer financially for taking one for the team and looking after the kids and going part-time. I think that the person who is working full-time should pay more. Your disposable income shouldn't be less just because you have gone part-time, because if they were to hire a nanny, if they were to hire a cook, they were to hire a cleaner, they would have less disposable income, right? So to me, if one partner has gone part-time, the other partner needs to step it up financially and pull their weight financially to cover for the part-time, with one partner going part-time. That's my honest opinion on it, okay? Now, I think I'm going to answer the question that the lady asked at the beginning, which was, I wrote it here. So basically, to summarize, at the beginning, this girl was saying, okay, should I hide my finances? No, I don't hide my finances. However, I would not be showcasing my income to somebody I just met. We don't know their intentions. We don't know what they want out of it. I would take my time. I would not hide it, but at the same time, I wouldn't reveal everything. But once I get to a point where I'm married, more than happy to share my finances with my husband. However, having said that, it's very, very important to have your own money, have your own savings. Yes, you can have joint savings. I have my own savings. Yes, we have joint savings, but I have my own money. I'm never, ever going to be in a position where I have none of my own money. I see so many women who, unfortunately, they're getting divorced, or their husband dies, and suddenly they're really, really, they have no choices. They're struggling financially. I never want to be in that situation. Yes, we can be open with our finances, but have your own money, okay? I personally am very open with my finances, and I want my partner to be very open with his finances. So that was the first question. Second question was, should it be 50-50? I think I've answered that. I don't think it should be 50-50. I think it should be according to income, but if somebody is not pulling their weight financially, there needs to be a good reason for it. Like, if it's not 50-50 because one partner is looking after the kids, or one partner just happens to earn more, but the other partner is working hard, okay, no problem, 70-30. But if I don't want it to be a situation where somebody's sitting at home doing nothing, watching Netflix all day, and one partner is having to suffer, I don't agree with that. That's not right. Similarly, you get a lot of hardworking, ambitious women and men that just want to share, follow their passion, It's like, well, passion's great, but you need to pay your way, right? So I don't think it's 50-50. What if you value other things financially? That's a good question. So, in the question it said her husband valued shoes and gadgets and she valued holidays. But bear in mind, shoes and gadgets are for him, right? Holidays are both of you. So he needs to pay his way for holidays. And that's something which you both need to basically have a conversation about, right? And so my husband and I, we value different things. I probably value holidays more. But if he was spending a lot of money on gadgets and shoes and he couldn't pay his way for holidays, then that would be a problem. I think we'd have to have a conversation and say, how can we jointly save towards X? Okay? And at the same time, I would probably save money to buy him gadgets too, but you both need to have a savings goal first. So both of you are saving towards one main goal, and maybe that goal can be towards holidays, towards gadgets, but it can't be a situation where he's spending all his money on gadgets and then you're spending all the money on holidays and paying for his holiday. Doesn't seem right to me. And finally, another question here is hiding debt. How do I feel about people hiding debt? Personally, for me, this is a version of infidelity. For me, in marriage, there's a few deal breakers. One, infidelity, emotional infidelity, physical infidelity, financial infidelity. To me, this is grounds for ending the relationship or the marriage. If somebody is lying to me about the, if they're seeing another person, definitely I'd end the marriage. If they are cheating on me financially, they're having debt, you are affecting my livelihood, you are affecting my future. To me, this is a big red flag. And if it's not resolved, I'd probably walk away. For me, it's a real big problem. Financial infidelity is very, 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 very scary because I've seen so many men and women suffer. Marriages break down, they're left with nothing. You need to protect yourself. And so I feel like someone hiding credit card debt it's a huge problem. And if it is not resolved, then I'd probably walk away. Okay? Now that might sound harsh to you because I really love my husband, but sometimes love's not enough. And so I'm trying to think of, like, I have a few other points that I wanted to add, but I think I wanted to finally add with, it's all about having common financial goals and having common, working towards a goal, right? I believe in kindness. You got to do what's best for you. If you think, okay, I want to stay at home, take care of the kids, I want to take care of my husband, that's okay. That's something you agree, you negotiate with your husband. I don't think it's fair if somebody is working themselves to the ground and someone's at home doing nothing and letting the other person just suffer. I don't agree with that. Like, I do think that staying at home and being a stay-at-home mom is a job in itself, and that's a worthy job. That's okay. Don't feel guilty about that. You're pulling your weight. I feel like sometimes women, especially the mom who stays at home, feels like, oh, I need to work. No, you're taking care of the kids. That's a job in itself. Let the man take care of you. But equally, I don't think it's fair if the husband is working himself to the ground, working long hours, and you're sitting there living the luxurious lifestyle and letting him suffer. I love my husband too much. I wouldn't allow that. I think I've been put on this earth with a brain, with skills. I can contribute. And finally, like, I want to always be in a position where I have autonomy. I have control over my finances, because we never know what the future holds, ladies and gentlemen. Your partner could die, unfortunately. I really think that retaining autonomy over your own money, have your own savings, is so important, and have skills where you can earn if you need to. Like, if I decide to become a stay-at-home and not work, that's okay. If my husband gives me an allowance, okay, I'm saving that money too. I'm spending on the bill. I'm spending that money, but I'm putting away some of that money to save for my future. Always have your own money. Always have your own choices. Okay? I hope that clarifies things. I've talked a lot. Hope I've answered the questions, but I'm open to hearing more, and welcome to hear more what you think about my thoughts. And you might agree, might disagree, but in the comments, I'd love to hear what are your thoughts, any questions you have. I can collate them and do another podcast. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next podcast.